Welcome to the Westeros Media Podcast, Lessons from the Ashes. We are here to tell the Phoenix Rising stories, coming up from the ashes to build businesses, to build personal brands, to parent, coming out, all of it. The stories of those who came from nothing and did great things. We all have a Phoenix Rising story, and I can't wait to hear yours. Join me every week for new podcast episodes. And of course, make sure you follow the show so that you never miss an episode. See you soon. Hello, and welcome to the next episode of Lessons from the Ashes, a Westeros Media Podcast. I do want to start this episode by saying there are some trigger warnings for disordered eating and for sexual abuse. So if these are things that hurt your heart to hear, please wait for the next episode. We have an amazing story, and I can't wait for you to hear it. Okay, welcome back to Lessons from the Ashes, a Westeros Media Podcast. Today I have a very special guest who I met about half a year ago and have been loving watching her journey since. Her name is Dawna, and Dawna, will you please introduce yourselves and let us know who you are?
Absolutely. My name is Dawna Zimmer. I am a 51-year-old yoga teacher, and I live out in High River, Alberta. And yeah, I've had quite a journey. Not the same as anybody else's. No one's is, but yeah, I've risen from the ashes a couple times. So very appropriate podcast to be on. So thank you for having me.
I'm so happy to have you here. And ever since I met you, I just feel like you have such like an effervescent, sparkly light. And I'm really excited to hear the whole story. So of course, nobody has just one Phoenix Rising story, but can you tell us a bit about your story and the things that got you out of the ashes?
Sure. So, well, it's a long story. We'll start. I was born a cold winter's night in 1970. So born to very interesting parents, very intelligent mom, extremely narcissistic father. Um, as I tell my story, I like to say right from the beginning, my parents are both the hero and the villain in my story. Much like many of us, we see our parents as this, person on a pedestal or however you see them. And then as you get older, you realize, oh, they're just flawed humans who also had children and they did the best they could with what little they had. So I always like to say that first. That's not an excuse for anything, but I always like to throw it out. My dad has passed away just recently. And so there's, I feel like that respect given to him is important to me. So essentially, I was born in Canada. And at around 5 years old, my little sister was born. And that was my very first time of feeling unsafe. I was left alone with an older babysitter and molested, raped at 5 years old. And that was hard. My mom was just upstairs with a new baby, and that was hard. It's hard. It's been with me my whole life. What I've always found the hardest thing from this part of my life was when I told my truth, no one believed it. And even if it was hard for them to believe, they quickly went into well, it probably wasn't that bad, and he had bad things happen to him. That old school thought of protecting the predators in your family. It was very common in the 70s to have someone in your family who, oh, you just don't leave the kids alone with them, and, not seeing it as the disgusting crime that it was. It was almost just sort of brushed away. I find a lot of things from back in the day, just stuck your head in the sand and keep calm, carry on. You don't talk about stuff. So when I did bring it up, it was just poo-pooed. And then in even more of a gross thing, almost being told that You should be lucky that you're cute enough to be wanted by boys. As I got a little older, well, it happened to you because you're so cute and let's just leave it alone. So it was something that I just was told to make go away. So I did. I didn't think about it. So at about 8 and a half, we had moved down to Texas. And my mom was deep in the diet culture of the late 70s and 80s, really into the pills and Tab, which was a diet cola that killed rats in labs, but they fed it to us anyway. And a lot of ugliness there too. Narcissistic father. So how we looked was very important. His love was conditional, very conditional. He was a very good-looking man, a salesman. Everybody thought he was the best. Maybe not the best dad. He did not have the tools. He wanted us to look good. So I went on my first diet at about around 8 or 9 years old. And that included code words to make me hold my stomach in so I looked good in front of people, diets, being told, if you eat too much and you feel funny, just make yourself throw up a little bit. And I'd never seen an after school special about bulimia or anorexia or I didn't know that that was weird. I just thought if you ate too much, you just threw up a little bit and you felt a little bit better. That was very common in my family, men, women. Some of my dad's colleagues, when they'd come for business dinners, they would go to the bathroom and throw up afterwards. I look back now, it's gross to even think about, but that was something that stayed with me my entire life, knowing that love was conditional and mostly how I looked. So as time went on, my parents, their marriage just went to shit. So about 14, 15, they started getting divorced, and that was an ugly scene to watch. My weight was out of control, so my dad wasn't giving me any kind of love. They were fighting, trying to get divorced. And then the summer before my junior year, they did get divorced. I was only 15 years old. Okay, life. I had my friends. I had this crazy home life, but nobody knew about that. Very compartmentalized. Nobody knows that I'm eating and throwing up. Nobody knows that I have this deep shame over being molested that was told just let it go, like just let it go. Don't talk about it. Stick your head in the sand. So when my parents got divorced that summer, my mom married our next door neighbor of 10 years within a month of that divorce. Tough to watch. My mom was his fifth wife. And she essentially came home from a Vegas trip with him, said, I married the next door neighbor. We're selling the home we grew up in. We're moving next door. Love it or leave it. And I said, I'm leaving it. I hated this guy with a passion for all the years we were a neighbor. And now he's my stepdad. That didn't work for me. Your girl's a Scorpio, very feisty. My dad's a Gemini. It's like, oh my God, just like three crazy personalities all at once. So I was able to get a hold of my dad pre-cell phones, like getting a hold of somebody who lived, like he was living in Canada. It's getting a hold of somebody who lived in another country, very difficult. I got a hold of him, told him, Mom married the next door neighbor. I want to live with you. And that's what started this next crazy portion of my life. Mostly I'm writing a book, as I've mentioned to you before, and this is what the book is about. So a couple weeks into my junior year of high school, I got called down to the principal's office, being told that your mom wants to take you to see a counselor. And every fiber of my being said, no, this is wrong. Something's going on. This is fucked up. Something is happening. I begged my principal, don't make me go. And she said, oh, you're fine. It's your mom. Nothing's going to happen. We got in that car and drove for what felt like hours and hours, but it was just on the other side of Houston. And that's where they signed me over to the state and committed me to the state mental hospital. In Texas, step parents have that kind of control. I recently finally was able to get answers from my mom. She's finally at 77 in therapy herself and able to actually talk to me about this a little bit. It's still very difficult for both of us, but I'm getting a few answers. Like, she thought also that maybe it was counseling. She didn't really realize that was going to change our relationship completely. So they committed me to the state mental hospital, which was kind of a popular thing in the late 80s, but it was more the private hospitals. Where I lived, they were called Charter, was the brand name. And it was almost, oh, if your kid was getting a little out of hand or they were smoking pot or skipping school, you just put them in this place and they smartened you right up. I had another friend go on an outward bound thing in Colorado, which messed her up beyond belief, the things that happened to her there. But so the parents kind of, somebody else do this. I can't handle it. It's too much. To save money, they committed me to the state place. Didn't cost anything. You signed your child over, and they now were my custodians. So the scene there was a white male doctor took me in. That was after my full strip search and taking everything. It was so funny because I wore such a weird outfit to school that day. I was really trying to find my group. I was, I was kind of friends with like the punkers, but, I had some preppy friends. And so I was really trying to find my way. And I was over the point of not looking cute, because you go through that phase when boys start to notice you. I did anyway. You didn't want to be noticed, especially if you have, you know, the kind of sexual abuse past that I had. So I kind of went through a grungy thing, but I was in sort of my cute phase. I was wearing little lace keds, little white sneakers, and like a long denim chambray skirt and a white t-shirt tucked in. And I can see myself. I thought, oh, I looked so cute that day, but they took the laces out of my shoes. They took the belt I was wearing, any jewelry I had. They took all of my makeup and broke it all up so that it was just left with the little palettes, nothing that had a mirror or anything sharp. And yeah, so I'm standing there in this gown after being strip searched at, it was quite 16. I actually turned 16 while I was in there. That alone was a trauma I'll never forget. I had never been at that age, really. I'd hardly kissed a boy. My mom, they committed me saying I was on drugs and wanted to live with my dad, and they had to control me. I barely smoked a cigarette at that point. Like, didn't do the things they were saying. That's what made it crazy to me. How could you do this? I remember seeing my mom the last time, and I just tried to reach out to slap her, and they held me back. And it was such a moment, such a traumatic moment, but it was really just the start of it. It was hell for me in there. I see it as a different point now. As I get older and older, it changes all the time. I hated those people in there, those nurses. Nobody protected me. Nobody gave a shit about me. And everyone else in there, I was the only white girl there. So they saw me as this little stuck up white bitch from the suburbs who's, like, I want to speak to the manager. I shouldn't be here. I know that's how they saw it now, because I can see myself saying over and over, I shouldn't be here. This is a mistake. This is a mistake. And no one would listen. So, not to get into too much detail, but it was the hardest. It was only about a month, maybe even 6 weeks. My dad did everything he could, move back to Houston, borrowed quite a bit of money from an old friend to get a lawyer, and got custody of me. So he always tells me it cost about $50,000. Remember, narcissist dad, money is very important. So he always let me know how much I cost him when he saved me. And yeah. And so during that time, I saw people try to kill themselves. Even though they had everything, it seemed like a safe place. This one young boy, I'll never forget, small little Spanish boy, he came in with his wrists all tied up, because he had tried to kill himself. There was a ping pong table. So I was playing ping pong with another kid, and that little guy came up and watched us. We didn't know he was grinding his wrist on the little screw that stuck out at the net the whole time until there was a puddle of blood and he passed out. And that was something I saw. But the things that happened to me were I was raped while I was in there by a 15-year-old Black boy, very, very troubled kid, but he looked like a grown man and had the strength of a grown man. There was some, what I call torture. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was still a good kid, but I was stripped naked and put in the padded room that just had the little window that people could look in on me to learn your lesson. Just quit, accept your fate. You're here. We believe your parents. This is just the way it is. So quite a struggle. And in the meantime, my friends were calling the house. My friends would call, "Is Dawna there?" They'd just hang up. My sisters, who were young and didn't like, "Where'd she go?" Just crying every day. They've shared with me how horrible it was for them. And I've only recently started to look at how it affected other people because it was such a huge thing. And I just felt like it was all me. And then I realized it really did affect so many people. So my dad got custody. 2 weeks after my 16th birthday, I got out of this hellhole. Yeah, and that was bad.
Yeah.
But once again, I had this massive trauma, this horrible thing that happened to me, and it was just don't talk about it. So he got me out of there. We lived in a car for a while, 71 Dodge Dart. I'll never forget, because his friend just had this old car, so we were able to live in that. My dad was an old hustler, old pool hustler, so he'd leave me alone at night in this car and go hustle pool for money. This is the days when, before Costco, but there was Sam's Club in Houston where you could get in. You didn't have to show your card, but the free samples, that's where we ate. We ate on the weekends there for free samples. During the week, we went to a bar that had a free happy hour buffet. Texas, you're allowed to bring your kids into bars, so that's not a thing. Mm-hmm. And I would get water, Dad would get a Diet Coke, and that's where we ate every single day until he met a lady. He met a lot of ladies. And within a few weeks, we were living with her. So now all of a sudden, I'm going to a new school. And so in his mind, just plug on. We never talked about it. He got me out of the state mental hospital where I was raped and tortured, and no one ever talked to me about it after that. Just act like it didn't happen. Just move on. Keep calm and carry on. The old, just don't talk about things and they'll go away. Very difficult. So what do you do if you can't talk about trauma? You start filling the hole in your soul any way you can. For a while, it was boys, drugs. I never really was a drinker, but I love drugs. And then we came up here every summer because we have family here. So we came up here and I met a boy. I'm like, that's it. I'm moving to Canada. And the more my dad said I wasn't going to, the more I knew I was going to. My life was doing things out of spite for many, many years. So I moved to Canada, lived with a family friend, met this boy at 19, got pregnant at 20, because this guy, he loved me and he showed some sort of love. Well, and then I got pregnant and another narcissist, big shock there. I mean, he really just loved himself in his time. So we ended up having 2 kids. My kids are a year and 9 months apart. The loves of my life, I think a lot of people, that's where they find their true love, and they find unconditional love if they've never had it. And I guess that's what made me believe, because there was many times throughout this where I've got nowhere to go. I've got nowhere to talk to. There's no internet, no kids help phone. There was nothing like that. It was just deal with it however you can. So the thought of taking my own life came and went throughout the years. I'm really fortunate that I probably was just too selfish to do that, thinking like I don't know how to describe it, but I remember the times where I thought I can just make this pain go away. But then friends come by and smoke a joint, and then all of a sudden you stop forgetting about that, and it wasn't too bad, I guess. As I got a little older with kids and I kind of threw out little bits of my story, that's when I realized, oh, it's unique. Everybody didn't go through this. Most people haven't been shot at 2 or 3 times. Again, my dad, he was a bit of a rascal. He often had more than one woman on the go. And, in Houston, most women have a gun in their purse. So when I say things like, oh, when I dropped to the ground at a baseball game because they put out a cannon and I thought it was a gunshot, people around think it's funny. And it's like, well, how many times have you been shot at or had a gun held to you? With your father, every time I was with my dad that I was ever in that position. And once again, those things happen and no one talked about it. Shit, my dad's girlfriend ran over my dog. He put it in the car, drove away, and we never talked about it. Never even came back and asked, are you okay? Or anything. It was just over. Don't talk about it. So I learned shitty things happen to everybody and you don't fucking talk about it. You just figure it out. You suck it up. Now I've got kids. So now I've got kids. I'm 250 pounds. My kids are 2 and 4, and the husband leaves, which deep down I knew he was going to anyway. Everybody leaves. No, I'm just not safe anywhere. I have to keep myself safe. So that's where I almost say like my persona of being a bitch, getting that hard crust around me for protection. So at some point I decided that everywhere is pain. I'm not safe. I have to build this protection. And for me, it was being a bitch, so that started before I started to gain. My kids were really close together. I gained 50 pounds and 50 pounds. So before I knew it, I was over 200-pound single mom with these two little kids, and didn't really know what to do, didn't really know where to go. I'm this, in my mind at this point, I'm a damaged kid, and now I've got 2 kids. Really didn't know where to go from this. So quick rewind, and this is where it goes to my parents' hero villain. I did not talk to my mom after this extreme thing happened, by being committed. And when I did talk to her, it was ugly. And it was, just give me money. Just give me money. Don't call me on my birthday. I don't really want anything from you. The only thing that matters is money. I really don't give a shit about you. And when I was pregnant with my son, so I was pregnant, and my dad said, you should really make up with your mom. It's better to have your kids seeing you have a relationship than seeing you being mean to their grandparent. And I mean, you could have knocked me over with a feather. I mean, she had put him in jail, accused him of child abuse, which was a lie, my senior year, I kind of had my own place. Dad traveled quite a bit. He had, girlfriends here and there, and then a little stint in jail. So I had been taking care of myself in my mind for a long time. And taking care of myself meant surviving, whatever that looked like, physically, mentally, however that looked. So yeah, so the ex left. I've got 2 kids now, still deep in the pain of everything that's ever happened to me because it's never been out. And when I did let it out, I either wasn't believed or it was turned into such a gross thing, like, again, like, oh, you should be glad you're cute, which, oh God, almost makes me feel sick when I say it now. It's just such a gross thing for a parent to say. But again, these were 2 very ill-equipped people, and not an excuse, but I'm in the phase where I'm, learning. Your parents were just people. They didn't know what they were doing, and they were raised by people who didn't know what they were doing. Sometimes people who didn't even want kids. These are the days where you just got married and you had kids, and that's what you did. There wasn't these choices, and I've chosen myself and I've chosen not to have kids. Everybody kind of did the same trajectory. And if you didn't, there was something kind of wrong with you. So, yeah, so the ex left. My mom actually moved to Canada to help me. And so tough stuff, having to stuff down all of the feelings. And just because I was desperate, I had, by this point, I was dragging two kids downtown on a bus to try to get welfare, which, by the way, is not freaking easy. When people say, talking about people who got any sort of assistance, you know what? It's not easy. Actually doing the deed, and mentally it's so hard. I'd always worked. I'd always taken care of myself. And now I'm in the position where I'm just crumbling mentally, physically. I can't do it. And I have two people I'm supposed to raise. So my mom, lived with us for a while and helped. And then I started losing weight. And I'm like, oh, well, this is great. Like my life's just going to be great now. And the more weight I lost, the more my dad came back into my life and helped me financially. And I became his favorite again because I wasn't the fattest, which is so disgusting, but it's the reality. It's the reality of what we live. Conditional love. Conditional love. His most important things were money and looks, which at any given time, he didn't always have money, but dad was a good looking guy. He knew how to make things happen. Yeah, and a salesman, everybody thought he was the greatest. Oh, your dad, I wish he was my dad. Those types of things when you knew. Ugh. I've only recently gotten over the fact that people used to say, oh, you're just like your dad. And then I realized recently they were actually complimenting me. They saw him as this really charismatic, funny, life of the party, good looking guy about town, well traveled person. They didn't know the narcissist at home. And I think so many people who live with narcs know exactly what I mean. You hear these things and you're like, if you only knew. And I've only recently come to realize they were complimenting me. They weren't being cruel like I thought they were. So yeah, so really, I mean, I just flopped around for years, flopped around in a lot of really weird paradigms about health and wellness. And, growing up in Texas, people who do yoga or meditate, they're just hippies and just smoking dope and saying all day. They don't work, useless. I mean, there's a lot of, pretty intense ideas I grew up with from teachers and just folks around you. And no internet to sort of explore anything in. You just believed what everybody told you then because you had no way to check on anything. You might have had
Yeah.
little sudden encyclopedias, but shoot, as soon as, Russia started changing, even geography was wrong. We had no way to like learn anything that wasn't fed to us, I guess. So I just saw no other hope but to get even crustier and even bitchier because now I'm thinking I'm protecting my children. So the hyper protective, never, I always swore nobody would sit them until they could talk in full sentences. I had all these little ideas around how I would raise my children, very strict because they weren't going to go outside and play, they weren't going to get hurt. So I was probably over strict. I was pretty hard mom, but to me, it was keeping them safe.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I got better jobs over the years, and I was so fortunate 20 years ago to get out of the bar scene because that's all I'd ever done. I had to quit school, I'd gone into higher education, but I got pregnant. Ex-husband got to go on, but I got pregnant. So I had to grow up and have kids, and that's what I did and did the best I could. But I met a wonderful man 20 years ago. And boy, I did everything to run him off. I did not believe he was the good man that he is. So over the years, it was, he's gonna leave me. I'm a bitch. He's not gonna, and he definitely won't accept me if he ever knew the things that happened to me. that's what came out of the silence, I think. The don't talk about it was the shame of I was hurt and then worrying what people were going to think about me because I was hurt. It was so deep in me that I would be rejected if people knew that I had gone through this. So only just a few people over the years, like I kind of maybe throw out a little bit, but very few people over the years knew the full story, just for fear of rejection. What would
Yeah.
they say? What would they say if they knew what just happened to me? Now I know they say, oh my God, you should have been kept safe. You should have been protected. You should have been allowed to speak your truth. All of these things that I now say and foster in other people is what I should have gotten. And I didn't. And it was, I mean, I'll be 52 this year. I mean, this journey has only been in the last 10 years for me where I've started to, it started with just, if you will, regular talk therapy.
Mhm.
And that was only after my physical health went down the tubes. I mean, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, psoriatic arthritis, complex PTSD. Once I started, you hear PTSD thrown around, or I did anyway, like on Oprah, and I thought it was just for people who went to war. And then I realized, oh, this is everything I have done was a directly from these things that happened to me, these things I've been pushing down and been told to not think about anymore. And anybody who's been through anything knows that's the opposite of what happens. You think about it in every situation. I thought about it with every boyfriend, and it made relationships with women almost impossible. I mean, I both my parents cheated. So all I knew was that women were out to get me. They were out to get my job, my children, my boyfriend, whatever it was. Other women were not safe.
Mhm.
So never really any really great friends. I had, there was no anchor over the years, nobody to go to. Couldn't bring it up to my sisters. It was just too painful for them to hear about what happened. And I've heard that a lot over the years, that it's just so hard to hear.
Yeah.
And if you've been through trauma, that's the biggest fuck you. You can't even listen to what I had to live through. That's a hard pill to swallow when people say they can't even, oh, let's not talk about that. I can't hear it. I had
Mhm.
to live it. So that, all of these things that just built up the shield more and more. So over years, there's always some drugs, definitely always smoke pot, at least to feel a little bit, some sort of a little bit of relief. I never was a big drinker, and I think my parents didn't drink, so I didn't really drink, but there was always some sort of addiction for me. At one point it was food and I was very overweight, and other times it was drugs. Man, something has to fill the hole in your soul if you don't address it. So here I am. I'm in my 40s with a younger husband. I still didn't believe that he was safe at that point. Like we had been married for 5 years, and I thought, well, this is it. I can't drive. I'm useless. He's going to leave me for somebody younger, better. Um, he's still here, by the way. He never did leave. I'm learning now that he was always the man he was, but I just didn't believe those people existed. Those people were never in my life. So to really believe that, I would say that was only in the last 5 or 6 years, and we've been together 20 years. That, well, let's just see. Well, now I'm down this low, and I'm here. You're going to leave now. You're not going to do this. And then hearing all the dirty details of my story, and he still didn't leave. So just starting to realize unconditional love does exist, so I have some success there, but boy, it took a long time. So yeah, so when I got really ill and couldn't really leave my house, that's when things really, really were bad. I started thinking about taking my own life again. I was an empty nester. My kids are both over 18 and they left and started, living their own lives. And so if you're not a mom, and I couldn't work anymore, so I was on disability and I don't have a job, so I'm not in the workforce. Couldn't really do all of the things I did as a wife. It was a low time. I've only recently given up that I was thinking about suicide at that time. It's hard to admit because I always feel like I'm stronger than that. But I did. It was a really dark time. If I'm not all of these things, what am I? Who am I? Just this damaged person who doesn't really deserve love. That's how it felt all of my life. So then I started to dip my toe into therapy, talking about it, talking to a third party person who didn't have any connection, who had no reason to stop when things got ugly, and just starting to dance around the darkness. I didn't know you had to go through the dark completely to get to the other side, but that part's coming. So I started this therapy and, I gained a lot of weight at that time and didn't feel good about myself. And my rheumatologist actually said one day, if you lost a little bit of weight, you'd have less pain. Well, that bitch, I cursed her all the way back to town saying, how dare she? And then reality sunk in. It's like, yeah, you know what? She's probably right. She's probably right. So I started just standing up. Used to watch Dr. Phil every day. So I'd stand up during Dr. Phil and just walk it because I was barely making it to my kitchen to get food at that time. Like I could hardly walk. I had joint damage from the psoriatic arthritis. So my fingers were starting to really curl in before I started meds. Brutal mental health. I'd never really done anything physical, never worked out, I shouldn't say that. I was quite sporty as a kid, going back to that old diet culture. I wasn't fat. I was fit. I was very sporty. I played sports and did gymnastics and I never saw myself as fat. My parents saw me as fat. So that it was, oh God, that whole thing of just never loving yourself, no matter what size. Didn't understand love. All my love went to my kids. And to me, that's all there was, and that's all I really needed. But I did need more. I did need more. I really hated myself. I had tried things over a few years before this. I actually got breast implants because I hated my body and I'd lost weight and I breastfed for many years. I'm like, oh, this is going to make me happy. I'm going to change this and this is going to be the thing that makes me happy. And then it didn't. And then you find another thing. No, it's going to be this. I'm going to get this house or I'm going to do this thing. And you're always chasing that thing to make you happy. No, never knowing that it's so much deeper than that. And scary. When you're told we shouldn't talk about this, when you first start talking to a therapist, you still dance around it a little bit. It's still very scary. I was shown that it's not safe to tell. Don't talk about this stuff. Nobody wants to know. Just act like it didn't happen. You didn't die, so move on. Where the reality is, I died 1,000 deaths inside and had never moved on. So I started therapy, started some really good therapy. It took a while to find a good therapist. I always tell people, don't just go to the first person you see. It has to be right for you. You're paying good money for this. So if it's not right, find somebody who's right. Shop for them. Don't just take the first one who's in your town or whatever. It's very, very personal, the person who helps you through this darkness. Yeah, so then I started with a different therapist who did EMDR, and that was a huge, huge leap in my healing. The real ugly stuff, facing it, really facing it. This part could almost bring me to tears because I had no idea how they could bring you to the moments and didn't even know in that moment that I was strong enough to get through talking about it, because it felt, oh, it gets so real. You feel it all again. You smell the smells. It's a very intense therapy, but it did something for me that I didn't know I needed. And it was, yeah, really facing that darkness to get to the light. So going into the fire, not dancing around it or just lighting your joint off it, actually going into it. Scariest thing ever, facing it. And yeah, and I did. And then a little more, and then a little more, and then a little more. And then I actually started to enjoy the feeling of moving my body, realizing, oh, hey, now I know, hey, I got a little natural serotonin. Wow, I kind of liked that. So I started doing exercise classes. Um, First class I ever paid for was a beautiful bar class right here in High River. And I actually paid somebody to go to a class. It was a big moment for me. All those years of scrounging for money, I couldn't imagine. Oh, like, must be nice to have a trainer and must be nice to have all of this. By the way, if somebody says must be nice to me now, that's the last words they ever say to me. I don't deal with people like that. If you're not happy for where I am, you're not part of this with me. But I was a very much must be nice person. Oh, look at her, Plus, every woman was my enemy, competition. All the wasted years on that. That's a whole nother story. Anyway, so started exercising and felt okay about it. But my exercising was always cardio. Don't slow down. When you slow down, you start to think about the worst stuff. And a friend said, you should come to a yoga class with me. No, God, do I look like I do yoga? No, definitely no to yoga. And then she asked again. And then finally she's like, hey, there's a free class. You're definitely going to come to a free class, right? I'm like, okay. So she drugged me to this yoga class. My first yoga class was a disaster. It was all good while we were moving. Then we get into the final pose, Shavasana, where you just lay there with your own thoughts. That was a place I never wanted to be. I kept my mind going. I volunteered. I worked 2 jobs. I go, go, go. Just keep going until you're so tired you fall asleep. There's no time to think about that darkness. But that first time in Shavasana, tears streaming down my face as the teacher said, take this moment, take a deep breath, and look inside your heart. And the tears were flowing. And it's like, oh, I don't want to look inside that dark black little thing. I was imagined as the Grinch heart, just that tiny little black sad thing. I saw myself as a bitch. I was a hard ass. I was, that's what kept me safe. And I left that class going, screw this. Yoga makes you cry. Yoga makes you cry. I'm never doing it again. A week later, 2 weeks later, she's like, let's go to a different type of class. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is bullshit. I'm not paying for somebody to make me cry. No, let's just go let's go work out and do something, movement. She's like, no, really, this is a whole different teacher. You're going to love it. And it was a different teacher. And I did love it until we got to Shavasana again, laying flat on my back. So my most vulnerable space I could be. And no one mentioned that to me at first, that vulnerability you might feel. I didn't know about being trauma informed or what it felt like to physically expose your body and open up to looking within. It was so raw and so frightening. Once again, crying. That teacher actually played the song Hallelujah during Shavasana. And it could almost make me cry right now. I could just feel that moment. And I blubbered. I was actually making, sounds. So now, of course, I'm embarrassed on top of everything. Oh my God, all these people are just breathing and they're so cool. And I'm sobbing. Now I know that almost everybody has some sort of level of that when you are quiet and vulnerable and look within. Now I crave that, which is interesting. I crave those moments. But at the time you left that class, and again, I'm like, this is bullshit. I'm not doing this. One more time. So it was right after, unfortunately, that horrible bus accident, the Broncos, the Humboldt Broncos. So it was a class that was a donation-based class for that. So there was a lot of emotion through the whole class. It wasn't just go, 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 and then stop. It was a very emotion-filled scene in that class. And that teacher was a completely different teacher. And I don't know why, but in a few moments during Shavasana, I did feel safe. And I did look in, and what I saw was pain and fear. And then I tucked that away, and then we'll just put that away for later. Nobody has to know about that. I'm still a bitch. I'm still strong. I'm still the Scorpio. Everything is black and white. It has to be this or that. And I'm not a yoga person. Yoga people are like this, and I'm not like that. I'm like this. And yeah, so then, got into yoga, did yoga. Still really liked more of a yang style yoga, not your yin. Oh my God, yin, screw that. Sitting there thinking like for minutes at a time in each pose, no way. And then, kind of dabbled in yoga here and there, but COVID happened. So now there's less distractions. And I've gone a lot further in my journey. So now I'm really into yoga. I'm doing yoga almost every day, almost thinking about meditating. Meditating was also scary. That's alone with your thoughts. My thoughts always went dark so quickly. My knee-jerk reaction was to just make it stop, whatever that took. Just make it stop. I don't want to feel this. And then I decided I wanted to learn more about yoga. So I'm going to become a yoga teacher. Not really. I'm like, I can't teach people. Who's going to listen to me? Nobody wants to listen to me. I'm grumpy. I'm such a bitch. I've left this trail of broken friendships and cruelty in my wake. This is in my mind. And I just wanted to learn more about yoga. So I do this. And of course, you do the practice teaching. And my yoga teacher, you're really good at this. You're great. You should become a teacher. I'm like, no, never, can't do it. And during our teacher training, she brought in a guest teacher. Now, had I known there was going to be a guest teacher that day, I probably wouldn't have shown up for class. Like anything out of the script or anything that wasn't exactly what I had planned for somebody with my kind of trauma just induced panic in me. I have no control over this. Oh my God, something different's going to happen. It's not what I have in my outline, just sheer panic. And this woman's name is Melanie Dawn. She is a wonderful, wonderful local yoga teacher, Reiki master, limiting beliefs coach. She literally that day changed the trajectory of my healing with her yoga nidra that she gave to us. And interestingly enough, the whole premise of that nidra was the phoenix. The idea of, so she led us through the beginning things, and it's all very yoga nidra is done on your back and with props, and you're supported, but it's a vulnerable space, and it's all about looking within. Oh my God, panic button, what am I gonna do? I can't do this. I'm like, no, this is part of this. And for me, I'm paying for this, so I'm going to get the most out of it. Okay, do what this woman is saying. You don't trust her, you don't know her, but I did trust my yoga teacher, so it's okay. She's brought her in. So she starts going through it. My dad had only recently passed away, so I have a lot of raw feelings when you set a boundary with your narcissist and you stop talking to them to protect yourself, and then they die. It's a whole different level of grieving. There's several, I had to get through a lot to get down to being okay with everything. Because again, hero and villain at any given time, like our relationship was so, just like everything, the duality of life, our relationship was so Oh, so layered. So Melanie got to a point and she's guiding us. And then there was a point where she said, "You are walking right up to the fire." And she led us. You are face to face. You are in it. Now you're walking through it and you are safe. And that's when I learned about the ideas behind Yoga Nidra and your Sankalpa, and that what I was missing from age 5 was that feeling of safety. I never felt safe ever in my whole life. I was always the person who had my own car. No matter how many miles away something was, I had to be able to go. I had to be able to protect myself and control the situation. Very, very control. Everything had to be controlled. Even, yeah, control is the name of the game, I think, when you're unsafe your whole life. And that's where the idea of changing that paradigm and looking at that limiting belief. And really, that's changed everything. So for me, when I think about, even when you mentioned the name of your podcast, oh, just that moment of me laying just right over there in this room, opening up to the idea of going through the darkness, going through the fire, and the possibilities of what could happen if I came out the other side. Knowing I would, because I'm safe. I'm just laying here on the ground. I've been living with what was inside this whole time, and it hadn't killed me yet. So yeah, so that big jump, oh, I mean, it really changed everything. And that changed me to notice maybe I wasn't a bitch. Maybe deep down I was a kind person who wanted to help people. And yeah, so that's scary. That's scary when you base your whole life around something and you think it's your personality. And then you start to break it down. So again, who am I then? Who am I if I'm not this crusty, oh, she's a Scorpio, that's how Dawna is, she's just like that, and don't piss her off, and walk on eggshells about certain things. So if I'm not that person, then who am I? Now, don't get me wrong, do I have the answer? No, I'm still figuring it out, and hopefully I'll live twice this long, like my grandma lived to 102, and I have 50 more years to figure out who I am, because I'm still figuring it out every day, breaking down that painful shield protection, the armor that you build, and realizing I am safe. I'm safe to trust other people. One of my favorite things that have come out of that is the change in the relationship with my husband. We had a solid marriage. It had never had any huge bumps. He came in when my kids were 8 and 10, and he had a fantastic role model for a stepfather, and he jumped in and he's been fantastic. Like, I can't say enough how he took on, and he's younger than me, just so you know, like he's 8 years younger than me. So he took on something that was completely new to him. He didn't know anything about it, but he did it with such grace, and he did such a good job, even having to deal with me and some of my ugliness through it all. Like, these are my kids, and like, they never said you're not my dad, but I think I threw that out there a couple of times, because they were mine. I say ours now all the time. So what's changed in our relationship is I don't have to feel like I'm protecting him from anything. I don't have to feel like I'm protecting myself from anything. I'm safe to let him know that I'm whatever. I can't even really think of an example, because we've been so open in the past few years where things were, again, I just wasn't sure if I was 100% honest. Would somebody reject me? Like that fear of not being even safe in my relationship that was already, 15 years old. It's ingrained in you that you're just not safe no matter what you do. So really switching that paradigm. And man, I would never write in a journal before. I've got journals all over the place now, and almost everything starts with, I'm safe I'm safe to feel this. I'm safe to talk about this. I'm safe to research this. I'm safe to let it go. I'm safe to hold on tighter. Everything I do starts with that. And I still haven't let that go. Like I'm still really in that space of my healing where I'm learning to trust other women. Went to my first women's retreat this year, which was way out of my comfort zone. Even driving there, I was thinking, what am I doing? What am I doing? These people are not going to accept me. They're okay. My little small group did. Okay, the small group of people, because during our yoga nidra training, because I took after I wasn't long after I became a yoga teacher, I'm like, well, I'm going to have to spend more time with this Melanie Dawn person. She really helped me. And so I took her training and actually trained in yoga nidra. And that's when I kind of whispered out my truth to everyone about what I'd been through. And they didn't reject me. They actually just pulled me in closer and accepted me harder. So in jumping into women's circles, oh, even that word scared me. Any, language always has scared me. Like, oh, I don't want to put labels on something. I'm not this, I'm not that. But I'm learning to live in the gray area of life. And my God, it's beautiful here. It doesn't have to be black and white. I know I always say like it's my Scorpio trait. It's a lot of traits. That's a human trait. I think I'm realizing it's not just for us crazy Scorpios. Lots of people feel like that. Like kind of once you've made a decision, dig your heels in because maybe you're gonna look weak if you change your mind over something. And the more things I change my mind about and switch the paradigms, I mean, just the easier the healing gets. I know there's more on this journey, but it's an exciting space to be when you've been through the fire and you've been through it and been through it. But what I realized now is I was kind of just always sitting in the fire. I'd never been the phoenix risen out of the fire yet until recent. And that's when you can sort of, I can even just see the imagery of the phoenix just looking down on what they've come up from. Because you don't just come up and fly away. It's always with you. You know, you might come out of the ashes, but it'll always be a piece of you. And that's okay. I'm not 100% a damaged person like I used to think. I'm becoming a healed person. And looking at the, pile of ashes dead on and knowing it can't hurt me anymore. Knowing that I'm safe to be in the darkness because there's light. It's oh God, I'll stop almost crying here. Whew. Sometimes as I'm saying this, I'm actually realizing as I'm saying to you, like how far I've actually come. Sometimes I feel like you're always just in it. Like sometimes I feel like I'm just starting to look at the roadmap. I haven't even been on the journey for very long. And then I realized, no, it's you've gotten somewhere. You have gotten somewhere. I have risen. I have come out like such a good version of myself that I didn't know existed. Back to the Grinch, my little heart, boop, 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 it got bigger, just like his did. Like I had the capacity for that all the time, but I had to keep that crust in my mind to protect myself, protect my kids. And God, it's such a beautiful, now again, I'm not all the way on the other side. I'm somewhere in the middle, I'm still learning. I think I always will be, always growing, but I can breathe now. And when I say I can breathe now, that's something else that I promote in my classes and my practice are big belly breaths. First of all, be proud of this. This is not something you need a code word to hold in. Whatever you have that got you to this point, love it. Rubbing that belly. I got a real menopause belly going on now, and she's there. And I love her because all of this body has gotten me to this point. So it's only been in the past couple years learning about breath work that I have taken full breaths. So to say I'm just now taking the big breaths and the sigh of relief, it's not a euphemism. I am actually just learning to fill my belly, show it being big, show my chest expanding, and taking deep breaths. Wrap it up with that, just about, asking for help, even to the point of, how much you've helped me, like in the whole social media space, and just like getting help. Don't flop around and think you can do it on your own. Because what I found is once I started asking for help, like I got hooked on it. I couldn't stop asking for help. And I'm always looking for someone who's either been through it or somebody who you can collaborate with, so that's where it kind of ends for me, is the asking, the feeling safe enough to know that there's people who can help.
Mhm. So when people come to you now, like, do you feel like helping other people is part of your healing journey too? I find so many people say that once they've been able to ask for help and then they start helping others, it just like multiplies their own healing. Do you find that?
Absolutely. And it happens so naturally. Like I didn't seek out people to help. They come. Just
Mm-hmm.
like I came to the people who I asked for help from. They just seem to, it's almost like you get what you need when you need it. And those people just start to arrive. I had a real problem with the word healer and just different words. Like I like labels were intense, where I realized you can be whatever you want to somebody. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter what the name. I like to see myself as like a helper. Remember, Mr. Rogers says, find the helpers. That's how I feel. Like if a kid ever came to my door, I would help them without question. If somebody came to me with their raw darkness, because that's,
Mm-hmm.
I used to, I know this sounds cruel, but I used to really think my trauma is worse than yours.
Yeah.
I went through some bad shit. So what I went through is way worse than yours. You would never be able to relate to me. Then as I began to heal, I realized everyone's trauma is the worst thing that ever happened to them.
Mm-hmm.
It does equate. It doesn't have to be the exact same thing. It was the worst thing to ever happen. I started to, oh, this sounds, but like really respect what other people had been through.
Yeah.
Kind of get so much into your own trauma and then your own healing that you don't even realize how many children have felt unsafe their whole life, how many adults have felt unsafe their whole life.
So if people want to like try this out, like when you were speaking about yoga nidra and it's like someone's like, oh my gosh, I really want to try that. Like, how can they actually do that with you?
To do that with me, I'm starting my Nidra sessions up again at the end of August. We have a rare blue moon at the end of August. I do like to do them on the full moon. It's a perfect time to rest, release, and reset.
Mhm.
That's kind of my mindset with these Nidras. So it's a very safe space. It's an intimate group. So you're always free to share, but just safe to feel the feelings that you need to feel going through this. So I always say in my classes, all human noises welcome here. Whatever you need, whatever release you feel. Often it's crying, but every once in a while it's that deep, that big sigh of,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I felt that. It was hard, but I survived it. And there is light at the end of the tunnel. When I see the light at the end of the tunnel, sometimes I used to envision that as just a train coming towards me.
Yeah.
People would say, oh, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and all these, different cliches that people would say. And I would think, yeah, but I feel like that light is going to crush me. It
Yeah.
never felt like I was reaching out towards something. It felt like something was barreling down on me. So I'm always careful when I use cliches like that, but just know that I've been at both ends of that tunnel.
Yeah.
And I think that's what draws people into my classes or my nidras, because I've seen things, I've been through things. My classes are not They're not Instagram classes. I'm not in it for the photo and just for the photo op. I'm in it a long haul with my students, whether that be private sessions where we do yoga nidra or yoga in private, because that's a very viable option. Not everybody, I mean, the fear of walking into a room of 10 other people who also are looking to heal can keep some people away from ever stepping foot in that room. It's hard to show up anywhere alone, you know, and if you're already feeling alone in your journey and your trauma, then showing up and maybe even exposing it, whether it's just one tear or sharing what you've been through, that can be debilitating.
Yeah.
So knowing that somebody is there who's, you know, I've walked the walk, I'm talking the talk, I've been there, didn't just read a book and and try to show up for other people. But I'm at the point now where I've learned to hold space for myself and then in turn be able to hold space for a larger group of people and let them know they are safe. They are safe to feel those things, to go through them or not. Sometimes in yoga nidra, you just fall asleep. It's so relaxing when you get into that state. And, you know, sometimes those human noises aren't tears. Sometimes they're snoring, and that's okay. You get what you need out of it. And maybe that's what you needed was that deep rest. But somewhere on that subconscious level, you're hearing the reiteration of the Sankalpa. Mine is always, they always start with an I am. It's a positive I am statement. So just, I am worthy. I am loved. I am safe. Like really reframing your ideas about everything you went through in your life. Because often those limiting beliefs started so young. You've had it for so long, you don't even realize how much it's holding you back. I know I didn't. I didn't really know till it really came to me that so many decisions, right, wrong, bad, good, however you want to call it, they were all based on that fear of I'm not safe to do X.
Yeah. I think so many people have that, and it's hard to pinpoint it and it's hard to talk about. And I'm really, really glad and proud of you that you do this work and that you took what happened to you and you're making gold out of it now. You're helping others. I think that's really amazing and admirable. And I am so, so glad that I got to meet you and that you shared your story. I really, really appreciate it. And I know that the listeners are going to also love it too. So they're going to want to follow you after this. Where can they find you?
So Instagram handle is Dawna Lee Yoga, DAWNALEEYOGA. On Facebook, Dawna Zimmer, last name Zimmer. I went to an American school. You know, it's hard to get take the girl out of Texas, but it's hard to take the Texas out of the girl. Yeah, and contact me if I'm not right for you. I know lots of people in this area, in this healing space. You know, one person is not always right. So I know lots of people, and I'm happy to send somebody in the right direction. Just to start that journey of asking for help. Something that you get from trauma is that feeling of always having to do it yourself.
Yeah, and you don't have to.
You know, and you don't have to. There's so many people to ask for help. Once you start asking for help, you won't want to stop. It feels so good collaborating or commiserating, whatever you need in that space. And again, I'm so proud of you starting, well, whole new life, new podcast, new everything. These are big steps and they're hard steps. It's sharing your raw truth with people. If ever in the past you were told not to. And getting over that and starting to share it, it's really such a gift knowing that you or me are helping other people, even one person to start start looking within. It's hard, but it's really worth it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so, so much. I am so grateful that you decided to share your story and be here with us, and I really appreciate it. And for everybody listening, I'm going to put all of these links in the show notes so that you can access them. And my kids just arrived home, so our quiet is officially over.
And my
Thank
dogs
you
have been
so
quiet
much.
this whole time, so I'm pretty
That's
proud of
amazing.
them. But it's
Mine
not
was
going to last
barking in
much
the
longer.
background. So yes, thank you so much.
Hey, I'm Stephanie Rose, and I am the host of the West Rose Media podcast, Lessons from the Ashes. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and on Threads and on TikTok and all the places. My handle is at West Rose Media. Check out my website too. There are so many resources for people just like you, people who are climbing out of the ashes, ready to make a new life. I got you, babe. Make sure you follow along. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. That way you never miss an episode and I can keep doing the magic. I can't wait to keep going. Let's get into it.